I'm excited now to bring on Stephen Lord, Senior Manager for Product Management at Ensono. Stephen, it's great to have you on the MegaCast.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, take it away.
Okay, great. Well, hello, everyone. As David mentioned, I'm Steve Lord, and I lead our infrastructure product management team here at Ensono. Just a little bit about Ensono. Ensono is a managed services provider where we help our clients achieve their business goals through digital transformation by helping them reduce cost and use this money to reinvest in their applications. We have a unique portfolio of managed mainframe, IBMI, x86, both physical and virtual, private cloud and public cloud with AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud services. With this approach, we can not only help our clients save money, but really help them optimize and modernize their applications, where it might be private cloud today, but public cloud tomorrow. And I want to thank Dell for helping us sponsor this event as well. Okay. For today's agenda, we live in a hybrid cloud world, so my focus today will be on disaster recovery while working in this type of an environment. To have a successful DR strategy, it really does start with a DR plan, but that plan needs verification and with testing, so we'll walk through this. And then we'll go through how we do DR when we have a mixed environment with physical and virtual systems, because this is the reality that most companies are in today. And with that, we are going to start with our first polling question. So this is going to help me set the stage and learn a little bit about our audience here. I want to see where everybody is at in their DR strategy and their DR planning. So to me, DR starts with having that plan. So let's see where everybody is at with having a plan here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see a lot of responses coming in already. Thank you for those. Let's get a few more, and then I'll share the results here with you, Steve, and you can tell me what you think.
So far, it's coming in like I was hoping to see. That's good.
Excellent. Well, I'll share the results now. It looks like we've got a good number of responses. Thank you, everyone out there. It looks like 20%, have a DR plan and have done a successful test 2 or more times a year. 30% test once a year.
It was started really well in the beginning, but that bottom area started creeping up. So, which is great. So we'll talk about a little bit about that today and how we go through our DR planning and DR testing. So really, obviously, our goal here is we want to help educate people and bring them up from those folks that are doing maybe a DR plan but don't do any testing at all, to those that they think they might have a plan. Hopefully their company really does have a plan. They just may not be aware of it. So, okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Those folks on the bottom there really could use your help, I think.
So they could use, yes. All right. Well, as I mentioned, the world is moving towards hybrid cloud. Many companies typically have applications running in legacy systems, such as mainframe, IBMI, physical, big database servers, as well as having VMs running in private and public cloud. So there is a mix of solutions that really we need to account for. This 451 research chart on the right really shows us perfectly where over time companies will have less traditional in the data center and more of a mix with data center systems, private clouds, as well as having public cloud. That result of this is really a much more complicated DR strategy. You need to understand the capabilities of the technology vendor you're using, along with the platform you have your applications running on. So when in your data center or in a service provider's data center, you do have more control and customization capabilities that may be important to achieve for very low RTO and RPO times, and also to meet your SLAs. And if having a diverse set of platforms to manage, really wasn't complex enough, you need to account for those regional and even global locations. Now, in many cases, you do want to have more than one of these locations because it allows for you to, fail over between sites. But again, if you take that to the nth degree, having multiple sites can really make a much more more complex web for a solution that you're trying to get accomplished. I think most companies realize backups alone are not a DR plan and cannot recover really, for the most case, in the RPO and RTO times needed to meet your SLAs. When you combine this with the new complexities of hybrid IT and traditional data centers failing over, using backup restores in a remote data center to recover from will typically fall short of what is needed. Backups are great for corruption and recovering from version control issues, but really not so good with, in my opinion, DR and meeting RPO and RTO times and really what we found and really working with a lot of our clients. Now, I will say backup can still play an important role for non-critical systems and access to historical data, even while you're in a disaster mode, and should still play a role in a DR plan, but they are, again, just one tool needed for a DR solution. All right, so what is the old adage? Hope is not a plan, and when it comes to actually having a disaster, if you don't have a plan, well, then you have no hope. So building out the plan is really the first step in ensuring that you have a successful DR solution put in place. When our BCDR team works with a client to ensure a successful DR solution, there are really 4 key elements that they go through. And so this is where I want to, really talk to everybody about, how we go about doing DR, because we do hundreds of DR tests every year. The first is working with the client to understand their business requirements by application. So not just overall as a company, but really digging down deep and going through their application level recovery needs. How much data, how much downtime can the business tolerate? Because knowing this drives not only the DR solution, but could also influence the production platform the applications need to run on to achieve those RPO and RTO times. Assessment is critical. Because again, this is where you know for a fact what you thought you knew about your environment and how your applications interact and communicate with each other. One of my favorite tools we use for assessments is application mapping, because honestly, application mapping helps in so many ways. We use it to help clients see what is communicating for DR planning, but also for security assessments, for migration planning into other data centers, and with moves to public cloud. I really can't stress enough how important knowing information about how your environment communicates, not just inventory, but how it communicates, is critical for DR planning. You do not want to miss a key virtual machine needed for a failover group. So now your applications will also change over time, and this means your DR plan will change over time. So periodic or even really continuous assessments are needed to ensure success. And again, as changes are made, let's get that DR plan updated. And there's a lot of tools out there that can help do some of that automated. But when you have such a heterogeneous mix of systems that are legacy and as well as virtual, at times there's got to be some manual updating of that DR plan. The 451 chart, research chart that we showed, showed the complexities of that private and public cloud changing over time. That is happening in our industry, and it will be a major update to the DR plan as applications move from on-prem to a private or public cloud. So that's also major complexity along with any global locations for those systems. And finally, someone in the company, really needs to be accountable for the creation and continuous updating of what we like to call the technical recovery plan. Depending on the size of the company. Preferably, this person's sole purpose in life is as that DR coordinator, and usually part of a compliance organization. And I know here at Ensono we have a team of dedicated DR coordinators for our clients, as well as having individuals responsible just really for our own DR planning as a company in case Ensono itself has a disaster. So now that you have a DR plan, you need to test it and ensure that you can do what you say you can do. So, but you can read all the technical recovery plans you want, but without testing, you're not going to gain the necessary experience in dealing with a disaster situation, as well as just auditing the plan to ensure it works. As I walk through this, you'll see why having a DR coordinator is necessary. Here I'm showing you the steps, again, that what we go through with our coordinators when we work with our different clients. First, scheduling the test. It seems kind of basic, but different times of the year, different clients will have different either end of year, whether it's holidays or their business spikes. So it's ensuring, what's a good time of the year to be able to do that DR testing. So, first scheduling a test with a client, their internal teams and Ensono internal teams to ensure that you'll get the proper representation from the team that will be involved in those normal recovery efforts. Then as we get to the 90-day test, 90 days from the test, we are trying to lock in that scope and the people that are going to be involved in this test. Again, remember, plans change throughout the year as the environment changes. So the people involved may change as well. But we want to start locking, that test, that group that's going to be involved about that 90-day mark. Then at 60 days, we are now meeting with these different individuals within Ensono, but also with our client and potential vendor involvement. So in many cases, you might have some third-party vendors that are going to play a role in your DR test. We review the technical recovery plan to ensure the roles and responsibilities are understood, but also to make sure that no new changes have come in and that we're getting ready to implement that technical recovery plan, and everybody has a chance now to re-review it and ensure that we think it'll be a successful test. Then we have the DR test itself. We are executing the plan and documenting what is working, and really, honestly, just as important, what might not have worked according to the plan. But it does not end with the test, right? As I think we could all kind of understand, the process needs to continue with those after action type meetings and reviews on how the test went. What worked and what needs to be fixed or improved. This is ultimately why we test typically once or twice a year, because again, as the environment changes, the plan will change, and as the plan changes, it needs to be tested. So I know we had a decent number of people that have a plan but maybe don't test, and then there's some others that, the test is unsuccessful. So, periodic testing and having these type of after action meetings is super critical because otherwise you're having a plan is just really checking a box, maybe for some compliance person to say, yep, we built a plan, but you really have to have some success in testing that plan to really feel confident that if a disaster really did happen, that you're going to be protected. Because let's face it, a test is kind of in a controlled environment. A real disaster is a little bit more of an uncontrolled environment. And so having that test be successful is really critical to helping you understand, what might happen if a true disaster were to happen. Okay, I want to dig a little deeper into the technical architecture. So still at a high level, but it should help with the intricacies of a hybrid cloud type environment. And for the sake of time today, my focus is going to be with those legacy systems and private clouds, what's going on within the data center. But a lot of this will also apply to what might happen with the public cloud as well. So hybrid cloud, why all the talk about it? Well, everyone is, and I mean everyone, is moving to the public cloud in one way or another, as the stats show. New application development in particular is trending towards a public cloud first mentality. Every single research, whether you're Gartner, Forrester, 451, they're all showing all new development is making its way out into the public cloud world, a lot of that application development. However, they also show just as strongly, like we saw earlier in that chart, that not all applications will make their way to public cloud and will stay in the data center. So we have now this interesting dynamic in how applications might securely interact across these different environments. So now with hybrid cloud or hybrid IT in general, we need to plan for these complexities when it comes to disaster recovery. Okay. This leads us to our second polling question of the day. Well, what does your hybrid IT estate look like? Sorry, go ahead, David. Is that you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great question here on the screen for everyone out there that says, what does your hybrid IT estate look like? And really, just this is kind of like, what's your infrastructure look like today? You know, maybe you have a mix of mainframes or power servers, physical servers, VMs on-prem, and then perhaps some public cloud as well. Maybe you just have a mix of physical servers with VMs on-prem and public cloud. Maybe a mix of VMs on-prem and public cloud, or maybe you're all in on public cloud. So let's give everyone a moment to respond to this one, and I'll share the results, and we can see what you think about it, Steve.
Yep, it's coming in like like I thought it would. We have a decent number of people that are all in on public cloud. But that traditional group, you have people that have the physical VMs and on-prem. That's kind of what I was expecting to see as the highest category.
Yeah, so I just shared the results. Looks like 42% said they have a mix of physical servers, VMs on-prem, and public cloud. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, any type of long-term company or a company that's been around for typically going to be over 20 years, all of them are going to have a mix of that physical VM and on-prem. And we have actually a really good mix of people that have, when you add in the mainframe and power servers in this crowd. So that's really interesting to see as well. You know, we do quite a bit of power and mainframe here, so we know, people have been preaching the death of the mainframe for 20 years, and I think 20 years from now they're still going to be preaching the death of the mainframe, and it's going to still be kicking. And because IBM continues to bring out new hardware, new operating system versions, the mainframe and those power systems are very far from dead. Okay, great. Thanks, David. I'll continue on then. Yeah, it was a great mix to see. All right, to give you a feel for what you could do yourself. So I'm going to describe about a little bit what we do for DR. So you could take this as some information and to apply it for your own company. Our Ensono private cloud platform hosts a lot of our clients' business critical applications. So for us, it was important to have a robust, integrated disaster recovery approach that meets the RPO and RTO requirements for our clients. We need to really not only plan for the production systems, but also enable DR capabilities in our private cloud environment. So super critical. We have all kinds of insurance, banking, manufacturing companies. You name it, the industry, and it's typically running in one of our data centers. So all those different types of industries also can have some different needs when it comes to RPO and RTO. So a lot of flexibility is needed. We use VM storage replication for sub 15-minute RPOs and really scripted network syncs and failover for sub 6-hour RTO. People get a little bit squirrely when they hear that maybe 6-hour RTO. We're talking the entire environment in 6 hours. So all the staging and all the groups and the prioritization groups, as they fail over, those again are going to come up. As you declare that disaster, want to go to the DR site, they'll start coming up immediately. But we're really talking from beginning to that last server coming online for that full RTO. And what this means is that your applications also in this type of environment are protected really from the moment you deploy them because of automation used to enable this. So I'm focusing a little bit more here on the private cloud environment. But I'll talk a little bit more about how we integrate that physical server world as well. One of the key factors here to making our private cloud successful for production in DR really is that secret sauce called software-defined networking. You see it right there at the top banner. This is, we use SDN to enable some really smart capabilities that you just can't do with many other solutions that don't offer it. Virtual machines that work together to support an application can be grouped, providing the ability to spin up individual applications on the DR side for a test without needing to coordinate with or even impact other application teams. So now, we really have options for mini testing before you deploy a new application. You can also test and make sure it works at the DR site. That software-defined networking completely separates production from DR. So you have the ability to run a DR test, a full DR test, and bring up your applications in the DR site while continuing to run production without any interruption. We create what we call a network isolation bubble to make this testing possible. There's no need to make any changes to your application when flipping to the DR data center. No IP address changes, no reconfiguration. It just works in DR as it did in production, because in essence, it is in production that just now happens to be running at the DR site. In the event of a disaster, we fail over the entire virtual data center and its networks. The virtual machines and applications have an identical network configuration at the DR site. This brings the environment up very quickly and reduces downtime in the event of a failover scenario. Now, again, as a service provider, we have invested in the skills to enable this type of work and be able to pull it off. But I guess the big question is, do you have the skills needed to be able to pull something like this off? Cloud skills in particular are tight. So if you're doing a private cloud on your own, you really need to start and keep investing in your team's cloud skills with self-service portals, and SDN, software-defined networking, is a critical piece of this to make it really happen. Well, like I mentioned, VMs are great, but some of our most critical applications tend to run on physical hardware, such as mainframe and big Oracle or SAP appliances and power. We had quite a few people that were running a mix of that type of technology. Well, guess what? Just because they are physical does not mean they cannot benefit from being in a software-defined network. If there's one thing for me that beats that application mapping that I was talking about, it's software-defined networking as a tool, because it is really just such a great enabler. Everything that can be done programmatically instead of having to plug and play different pieces of equipment together. And again, yes, these physical servers and appliances are connected to physical switches, but it's really that software-defined networking network overlay that really controls the network and how virtual and physical servers communicate and are allowed to communicate for security or for network isolation. Again, especially when we're doing a DR test. You couple this with automation of virtual infrastructure and application builds, and now what you really turned this into is a software-defined data center with a mix of virtual and physical systems. And honestly, again, SDN is the key ingredient to making a software-defined network data center a reality. All right, so just as I mentioned, we recognize that most clients are going to have a hybrid estate, and not all workloads will run as virtual machines in the private cloud. So holistically, these environments need to be able to communicate with each other. Our private cloud is easily connected to leading public clouds via our Cloud Connect service. Cloud Connect is our high-performance connectivity offering built on Megaport today that delivers on-demand connectivity to the major public clouds, including VMware Cloud on AWS, Azure VMware Solution, as well as native public cloud with AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. An edge pod is, that seamlessly integrates that physical systems that I was just talking about in the previous slide into Ensono's private cloud software-defined networking environment, really for that consistency of security policy and high performance. So when you bring this all together, you have one management plane for centralized control of the entire environment, and we have our Ensono Envision portal to give clients visibility to their data and data analytics across all of these different platforms. Okay, next steps. When this call is over, hopefully I've made you think about how your current production and DR environments are set up, as well as the planning. Think about how you answer that first question. And if you have a plan in place, test it, as well as maintain and improve it over time. So everybody has some homework to do. And if you don't have a plan, well, then you need to build it now. Assess what your IT environment looks like today and how it's going to change over time, and incorporate this into your planning. And finally, be honest with yourself. Do you have the expertise to really pull this off? Or do you need training or outside help? Ensono manages IT systems, for allowing clients to be great at what they do and with your business and your applications. So we are also here to help with that. Okay, and David, I think I'm ready for some questions.
Excellent. Yeah, great presentation. We do have some questions for you. While we do that, I'm just going to bring up a poll for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Ensono solution? And we appreciate your feedback on that, of course. So let's see, a lot of good questions here for you, Steve. First one, any advice on reconciling different RPOs and RTO requirements from different lines of business?
Okay, so I touched back onto the plan. That plan, when you're doing an assessment of the environment, you are definitely going to have different RTO and RPOs requirements, and again, it's going to require different technology needs. Certainly, if you have anything that's like I touched on, the 15-minute RPO, 6-hour RTO, what we're doing there is that storage replication, right? So it's understanding your technology set from a VMware or a virtual machine-based environment. Storage replication for us is the key. Get that data over to the other site as quickly as possible. And then we use that scripting to bring up that remote site at the other side. So again, using different tools. For us, we are using vCloud Director Availability to make a lot of that happen within our private cloud environments. We also have clients that have some dedicated VMware environments where we might use Zerto and other tools to bring those systems up, as well as Site Recovery Manager from VMware to bring those systems up quickly. If you have those critical systems that, or I should say some non-critical systems, then what you could do is start using backups again. They're great for version control, like I mentioned before, but those backups can also play a really nice role in all those maybe non-critical systems. Maybe you still want to bring up your dev test environment at the other site eventually so that your developers and others can do some testing, especially if you think you're going to be in a disaster mode for a long period of time. Then having those backups to bring up those types of environments eventually is also plays an important role. So they don't want to discount backups. It's really important for a DR solution. Should always be a part of it, but it's not necessarily going to get you those RPO and RTO times that you're looking for to really bring up production as quickly as possible.
Got it. I like that flexibility, that kind of customized approach for different applications and needs, and you've got different tools to meet those needs. So that's smart. It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
No, because to add to that, it's expense too, right? So let's face it, a lot of this is going to come down to money. And disaster recovery isn't necessarily the most inexpensive item. It's an insurance policy, and one that you hope you never have to use, but it's an important insurance policy for the business.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's see, here's a question from Carrie who asks, does Ensono provide complete DR plans for your customers, and are they updated after DR exercises?
Yes, hey, Carrie. So yes, we work with clients. So many of our clients might already have a DR plan, so we'll review that with them, as well as make amendments to it with them. So we'll follow through using our best practices and how a successful DR can go with all the different amounts of experience and years of experience that we've had. So it'll be tailored to the different technology platforms. Mainframe might be a little different, obviously, than a private cloud VMware-based environment. But we do work with the clients to review those technical recovery plans. And like I mentioned in a previous slide, that last step of understanding your overall plan, it starts with building a plan, reviewing the plan, testing the plan, and then those after action meetings to see how did the test go. If the test didn't go well, what updates need to be done to make a successful test? And then sometimes we can fast track that second test and go, if something really did fail, we want to try to test the updates to it as quickly as we can, not just wait for next year to happen for the next test to occur. As well as, again, review changes to those plans throughout the year, because everybody's environment's always going to change. So we wanted to continuously update the plan, and then it's really important to test it to make sure we thought what was going to happen does actually happen, and we're successful with it.
Absolutely, yeah. There's another question here. Have you seen DR from on-prem to public cloud? What have you seen going on in that area?
Okay, well, that's a great question, and honestly, that's a difficult one. Typically, very different technologies are in play, where you can get some success with low RPO and RTO times is a VMware. But let's just say, I think as an example, clients using a VMware solution. Most clients, if they still have on-prem, have VMware running around in their environment. So a VMware on-prem, or even on like a private cloud like we have, to a VMware cloud on AWS solution. So using third-party replication tools, or VMware Site Recovery Manager, or VCDR now from VMware, that's a little bit newer, running to get this data moved over to that public cloud environment is critical. This method keeps, what I like about this method, when you talk about from a VMware-based solution, it keeps it all within, still running in a VMware environment. So what that means is that though you can leverage the cloud to maybe be that secondary data center for you instead of having another one, or you want to, you could pick a different Amazon region where you want to have that DR located, it's still a VMware environment. So your applications that run in VMware in your data center, that the reliability, you can have that confidence that that virtual machine is going to run at that DR site. Now, if you can stand a little bit longer RPO and RTO, this is where, again, the backup software options, where you can back up a VMware VM and restore to VMware Cloud on AWS. Or honestly, you can even restore, in many cases, directly to native AWS and Azure type services. In this case, you're replicating the backups to the public cloud provider, to backup servers you have in the public cloud, and they're using, typically we would replicate to Amazon S3. So this is what we do when we're working with clients, or to Azure Blob Storage to hold the data. All the big backup software vendors support this type of a backup and restore to a cloud solution. Again, however, there's that price to be paid in typically a longer RPO and RTO time. So hopefully that answered Carrie's question.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, it looks like we're starting to run out of time here in our live Q&A session, but there's a lot more really excellent questions in the electronic queue for you, Steve. We'll get those over to you, and of course, I'm sure they appreciate your feedback on those. But really great presentation. Thank you so much for being on the MegaCast today, Steve.
I thank you, David. I appreciate your time, and everybody else's too.